I was doing pretty well, nothing outrageous, and then it all went downhill. Hi, it's Jen from Dream Prague. This is my channel where I give you the scoop on what it's like to be an American immigrant living in Prague, Czech Republic. That's my dog sneezing. If that interests you, then go ahead and subscribe and click the bell so you can be notified of new videos each week. Come here. How much did you cost this week? You cost a lot, but you're worth it. So in this video, I wanted to give you an idea of the cost of living in Czech Republic. Now, I'm sure that many Czechs will say, Prague is not Czech Republic, and it's true. It's like comparing Kansas to Los Angeles. Prague is a lot more expensive than other places in Czech Republic. If you're Czech, you might be interested in learning about the weird spending habits of an American in Prague. So first, my husband was out of town on business. When my husband's home, we like to cook a lot at home, but we also go out more to drink. So we'll make dinner at home, but then we'll go out and get a few beers after. So I didn't do that as much with him gone. And second, things kind of took a turn for the worse, and I'll get into that at the end of the week, with some expenses that aren't normal expenses of what I would spend in a normal week. But I wanted to be honest with you, and so I'm including them. So first I want to start out with my typical monthly expenses, like rent and utilities and things like that. So I'm gonna take the total and then divide it by 2 people and then divide it by 4 for the weekly amount. So we live in Prague too, and that's in the more expensive parts of Prague, but we did get our flat 8 years ago, so the price hasn't gone up quite as much as someone who's renting a newer flat. We pay 18,000 crowns a month, and with utilities, that's an extra 5,500 crowns a month. So divided by 2, and then for my weekly portion, that's 29.37 crowns for the week. We also have some subscriptions, so those came out to a total of 404 crowns for the month, and that's 101 crowns for the week. Then I also have to pay for my social security insurance. When you're a živnostnice, you're an independent contractor, you have to pay your own social insurance. So that's 23.88 a month. And then my medical insurance is 23.52 a month. So divided by 4 weeks, that comes out to 11.85 crowns per week. Whoops, I forgot to add in my share of the internet and my phone bill, and that comes out per week to 150 crowns. Okay, so let's get started. So in the US, calendars start on Sunday instead of Monday, so we're gonna start on my Sunday. And Sunday is usually a day of relaxation and kind of prepping for the week, and that generally includes prepping food for the week. So I'd heard of this store called Vegan World near Bila Labut, and I wanted to go and kind of check it out, so I went shopping there, and I found this vegan cheese that I'd been following on Instagram, and I wanted to try it out, and it was delicious. I also got some red pepper spread that was really, really good, and some tofu. I rarely get specialty vegan food, but I was kind of in a mood to try something, so I ended up spending 424 crowns, which is really more than I would spend on 4 items, really. Then I went to Albert, which is like one of our grocery store brands, to buy some of the basics that I'd need for the week. I usually get fruits and vegetables at an ovoce or zelenina shop, a fruit and vegetable shop, or the farmer's market, but because it's the winter, the farmer's markets haven't all opened yet. So I just got them all at Albert. I also made a point of going to Albert because they carry a Ben & Jerry's dairy-free ice cream that is seriously delicious. I think I was a little lonely because my husband left, and so I was feeding my emotions. I like to cut up a bunch of vegetables to sort of keep for salads all week. That way I know that I can eat healthy all week, because if I'm starving, I won't take the time to cut up everything. So I will make my own salad dressing, cut up the vegetables, and kind of get everything ready. And then one big salad usually lasts me for 4 or 5 meals throughout the week. And later that day, I prepped some ingredients for a baked zoodles recipe. So I was making zoodles out of zucchini, and then I bake it all with tomato sauce. And I usually make enough for like 2 meals out of one recipe. When my husband's gone, I'm definitely into leftovers. So on Monday, I used the vegetables that I'd cut on Sunday and ate a big salad for lunch. Then for dinner, I made myself a big batch of lentil soup from mostly things that I had in the pantry. And then I booked a Czech conversation lesson with one of my Czech conversation partners that I found on italki. If you're interested in finding a conversation partner on italki, I have a link below you can go and check out. And that cost me 300 crowns, although honestly, I feel like I should have paid her more because my Czech that day was abominable. It was awful. On Tuesday, I ate a little bit of lentil soup and a little bit of salad for lunch. This is gonna get pretty boring. I'm a big leftovers girl. And then I decided to go get a haircut. This is not really representative of a weekly expenditure. I get haircuts maybe like 3 times a year. But I think she does a pretty good job. Then, totally sick of leftovers, on day 3, I decided to go to Loving Hut around the corner, which is a really nice vegan bistro, and it's like, got delicious, sort of pre-made Asian style cafeteria food, and that cost 135 crowns for a giant plate of food, so that was great. I'm not really a big breakfast person, but I generally like throw some oats in with a banana and water and just like make myself some oatmeal. Or I will, in the summer, I make banana ice cream, like frozen bananas and chocolate and peanut butter, and eat that because it's so hot. But sometimes I just don't even eat. I have coffee and then I wait till lunch and eat then. On Wednesday, I met my friend Vanessa. You might know her as Vanessa Eats Prague. She is a gourmand who usually tells me where I should go eat around Prague, and she recommended this new poke bar. It's called Na Poke. And I got a tasty little tofu bowl there. It was pretty good for 235 crowns. And on the way home, I stopped by the zoo, which is what they call pet stores here. So no lions or tigers or bears, pretty much just like dog treats and balls and such. I picked out some fancy dog food for Tobik. I honestly don't know what to get. I'm always reading articles about like what food is the healthiest for your dog, and I think I'm just a sucker for marketing, so I bought like the most expensive food there was. Then I got him some jerky, and then I got him a couple new balls. And I was back to leftovers for dinner. Thursday morning, I took Tobik to Rigrak, which is Rigrovisady. It's the closest park to our house. And there's a nice open dog park there, so I took Tobik and his new ball to see that it worked, and it worked as advertised. For dinner, I ate some broccoli and some tempeh that I cut up and toasted. And I feel like the Czechs they're like, where the hell's the meat in your diet? And I don't really eat meat. So it's cheaper to live that way, believe it or not. Except for, you know, the vegan cheese, that can get expensive. Anyway, tempeh in the toaster, like a few spices, I'm good to go. So salad for lunch and broccoli and tempeh for dinner. So yeah, the weekdays weren't really that exciting. I don't like to spend money out at Starbucks or Costa Coffee. They're just as expensive as they are in the States, and when you kind of think of like how everything else in Prague is so much cheaper, why am I gonna spend $5 on a coffee? So I just make coffee at home. Friday needs some explanation. So very briefly, at the beginning of 2019, my husband and I bought a flat in Prague. And we don't live there yet. We might in the future, but right now we have some lovely English teachers who rent the flat from us. And ever since the beginning, there's just been a little problem with the plumbing. And we thought we had it fixed in August. Basically, the problem was that there's like a little bit of leaking down to the downstairs neighbor's ceiling. We thought we had it fixed, but we didn't. So in late December, my neighbor started getting a little bit more of a leak, and so finally we got another plumber on the case, and I met with him nice and early on Friday morning. So it's 7:30 on Friday morning, and I'm going to meet with plumber number 5, 6 in 6 months to try to figure out this problem. And I even printed out a history of the problems in Czech and showing what each person did, because I feel like there's a lack of continuity between plumbers. So like one guy will come and maybe he won't even charge us, but he'll say, this is the problem, you gotta talk to another guy that specializes in that. And then that guy comes and he's like, I don't see a problem. So between my lack of understanding of plumbing and my lack of understanding of Czech, this is something that like, I feel like I can't get done on my own. So we'll see how it goes. Wish me luck. Yeah, it wasn't so easy. So this is where the spending for the week got out of control. Plumber's diagnosis was that we needed a new cotel. So first of all, cotel. I have so much new vocabulary from meeting with the Czech plumber because, as you would imagine, the Czech plumbers, they're not speaking a lot of English. So I'm really having to bone up on my plumbing Czech and my instalatér Czech. So a cotel is a boiler or a water heater, and this is the first flat we've ever owned, so this is the first boiler we've ever had to deal with. When there was a problem with my boiler in my flat, I just called the owner and he dealt with it. But now we're the owners, so we have to deal with it. This is where he tells me that the new boiler is gonna cost, plus the service and the chimney sweep who has to come too. There's a lot of parts that go into this. Total cost is 105,000 crowns. So I'm just gonna be positive about this and say that there are many times in my life where I couldn't have come up with 105,000 crowns. So I'm very grateful that I'm finally in a position where we had that much in order to fix the problem. Oh, and he needed cash that day. So went to the bank, got the money, and spent 105,000 crowns before lunchtime on Friday. Rent, children. Rent as long as you can. This is just part of the experiment of buying a place, and yeah, there's nothing more to say about that. They're supposed to last like 15 years, so I guess if you take that number and divide it by 15 and then divide that by 52, you'd get this much money for the week spent on a cotel. I think that's a little bit more of an honest number if we're counting up the whole week, but fine, I'll include that in the calculation. Then I had a dinner date with myself. I decided to go to the theater to see a Zimmermann play. And Zimmermann is a famous Czech playwright, can we call him that? You'll learn more about Zimmermann in a later video. But anyway, he's got a theater in Žižkov, and I decided to go check it out. They have plays in Czech, but they also have his plays translated into English. And I'm sure if you're Czech, you are like, nope, the brilliance of Zimmermann cannot be translated into English. But I found it to be a fantastic performance. So first I went to New Beer, which is a little micro pub in my neighborhood, and I got a beer for 80 crowns, which I know if you're Czech, you're just like, what the 80, what is this woman insane? She's spending 80 crowns on a half liter of beer. In Prague, beer is more expensive. The beer I wanted is even more expensive. It's my favorite beer. It's Matuška. It's a microbrewery in Czech Republic. And if you're American, you're like, I'm sorry, did you say like $3 to $4 for a glass of really good beer? Like, that's amazing, sign me up. So I met somewhere in the middle. After I got myself a beer, I walked over to the theater in Czechs, and it was such a nice night. I didn't even need to take the tram or the bus. So I walked over there, and the performance was awesome. I highly recommend, if you come to Prague, to catch some theater. Lots of it is in Czech, but there are often subtitles in English, and you can ask at the ticket office if they're gonna have subtitles. And this one was in English and it had English subtitles. But there were a lot of Czechs around me and they were howling with laughter. So I really do think it translated well. It was an absolutely fantastic show, so I highly recommend checking it out. And I'll leave a link to the theater below. And then on Saturday, I woke up really early and I took Tobik on our favorite walk, which is up Petrin, which is the hill that's like on the other, it's by the castle, it like wraps around to the castle. If you've been to Prague, it's where there's like the little miniature Eiffel Tower. It's actually Petrin Tower. It's Saturday morning and we're up on Petrin and we've passed like 4 people, which is so nice. What better thing to do on a Saturday with Tobik? And there's a place that I love to go to reward myself at the top of the mountain. It's like it's a Potravini, but they've got a pretty decent little cappuccino there. So I'm gonna go get one, and then we'll head home and do some work today. As we got down to the bottom, it started to sprinkle, and so we decided to take the tram. And because I don't have my Latachka charged, because I'm not using the tram that often when I work from home, I just bought a ticket on my phone, and it was easy 24 crowns. Just so you know, the monthly pass is 550 crowns, so I'd have to take 22 trips per month to make it worth it. Because I like to walk, I'm trying to get like a lot of winter steps, and I just don't go that far on the tram very often, so I just buy as I go. Then I met some friends for brunch at Radost, which is a nice little vegetarian restaurant in the hood. And I got a vegan Los Rancheros, which was not bad. The eggs one is better, but this one was good. And then I got a milkshake for 90 crowns, which in retrospect, the beer was more worth the money. But the milkshakes in Czech Republic, they're not like thick. They just kind of like throw like an ice cube and chop it up, and they're like, here's your shake. And it's like, thanks for the juice. And we had to pay for water. So they charged us, I don't know what it was, like 20 crowns per glass of water. We had a craft. Yeah, charging us for tap water. I mean, I guess if you look at it like they're charging you for the service and the pain in the ass of having to clean the glasses, like fine. Whatever, it is what it is. But just like Americans, you're losing the battle. You're not getting free water. Just suck it up and pay for it. And at the end of the day, I was so exhausted that I just went to the Potravini, not Potravini, the Potravini, the Večerka, whatever. I went to the corner shop and I got a vegetable ramen and a birel, which is a non-alcoholic beer. So that put a really anticlimactic end on my week of spending. So that brings my weekly total to 86.53 crowns or $371. Some things that I didn't buy that I would totally pay for in the United States. Transportation, you saw I used it once, it was 24 crowns. In the States, I would have bought gasoline and I would have probably gone through a whole tank within a week. So that was a big savings. I don't go shopping for clothes very much. To be honest, I'm trying to like be on a low buy, meaning not buying something physical unless like something I have wears out. Both to save money and just because I feel like, I don't know, I think there's like too much stuff. I have too much stuff and I'm just trying to like simplify things. So I have enough sweaters. I mean, they've got dog hair all over them, but they work. So I'm not buying clothes. But yeah, I hope this gives you a somewhat realistic idea of what it costs to live in Czech Republic. I'm always looking for topics that you are interested in about an American immigrant who lives in Prague. So if you have ideas, put them in the comments below. Okay, I look forward to hearing from you. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you did. Okay, uvidíme se příští týden. Ciao.